Well, thanks for clicking on my channel, my video here. This week's project is this box. The author of this calls it a scroll box. I'll have the name and title of the book in the description down there, but I've done several boxes out of this book. She calls it a scroll box, and the purpose of this video is to have, or this box, is to have a minimal amount of fretwork or cutting on the lid, so that you can have a piece of wood that you kind of want to show. You want to show the grain. So I had this piece of zebra wood that left over from another project. If you haven't seen that, I did a video with 4 swans, and this is one of the 4 or 5 woods that I used in that project. I'll put a link to that down in the description if you want to go look at how that was used in the other project. That's what I originally bought this for, and this was left over from that. So stay tuned, and we'll get to the patterns and the material, and I'll show you what I did. And then we'll cut it, and I'll do some gluing. And this project you kind of glue as you go, and you make the last cut, you're just about done, other than putting a finish on, doing your sanding or whatever. So stay tuned, we'll look at the patterns and the material, and then we'll get to the scroll saw and cut it out. Here's the patterns and material for this box. Just 3 patterns, although you use them twice. You could use this one twice, use this one twice, but you use this one with that one, so you combine them on the second round. I'll go through that procedure here in a minute, but right now we're going to look at the material. I've got a piece of zebra wood. That's going to be the lid. The purpose of this pattern, this box by the creator of it, is to kind of have a minimum of scroll work, and it's called a scroll box, but a minimum of scroll work so that the pattern or the grain in the wood can show up, and that'll be the feature of this box. And I got these box sides. It says 3/4 to 1 1/4. I layered up some scraps. This is poplar, this is ash, that's mahogany, and that's walnut. And you cut this, that comes out a little bit over 1 inch. That's supposed to be 3/8, but I think it's a little thicker. You cut this inside of this, and then we'll glue it to this piece and cut the outside, and that makes that box match the bottom perfectly. Then we got this is a lip that goes on the bottom of the lid. This is just a piece of poplar. And you cut out the inside, you cut out the outside. You got the 3 lines, inside and outside line. And then you flip this over and glue it to the bottom of this, because it'll match up. These outside lines should match up. And then you cut the center line, and that leaves this lip on the bottom of the lid. And the inside of this should match the outside of this one. I'm going to see if somewhere in the process I can test that to make sure that it's cut properly. That I may have to do some sanding or something before I glue everything together. I'm not sure that I'll have a place in the process to do that, but I will keep an eye out for that if I can. I haven't had any problem with these so far. I like them to be snug, but I don't like them to be real loose, and that's what I kind of look for. Generally, if you cut on the line, they've been working good. I've made several of her patterns, created projects from several of her patterns, and I haven't had a real problem with that. I don't expect it this time, but if I can test it somewhere down the line, I will. I like to double check things. So I'm going to put a number 5 in the saw. I drilled big enough holes in all this. This is a thick piece. I'm going to cut it first with a fresh blade. And I think I've got a hole drilled in all of them that'll handle a number 5. And so let me get to the saw, and I will put a new blade in it, and we'll start out cutting the box. So I got that cut out. It was, wood was really my blade didn't want to stay on line. It was really difficult to keep it. It's got some grains going different directions, and that's pretty thick. I made it through okay, but then it was a tight fit coming out. I got it out. I had to pull the blade out of the way so it'd have room to slide out. There must have been a slight bow there at some place. You can't see it by the eye if there is. But now I got to take this piece and glue it to that other bare piece I've got over there that's going to be the floor of the box. And then I'll come back later and cut out this outside line after that glue is set. So I'm going to glue that. Then in the meantime, while that's setting, I'm going to come back and probably work on the lid. As you can see, it's got several uniform holes on this pattern. And these are the same size. I think these two may be a little larger. But I could have drilled those out with a drill. But the problem with this zebra wood is it splinters really easily on the back side. Even with a backing board, it wants to blow the back side out. So I'm going to cut them with this on this scroll saw. And I may go and see what size drill bit that is and clean the holes out later to make them all uniform. I don't know that it really matters. I'm just kind of picky about stuff like that. But that's the reason I'm drilling all these holes that could have been drilled. And sometimes drilling can cause other problems. But anyway, so I'm cutting these out with the scroll saw for now. So now I'm going to cut the piece that's going to be the lip on the underside of the lid. I'm going to cut this inside line and then cut the outside line, glue that on the bottom of the lid that I just cut out. And I'll let that glue sit, and then I'll come back and cut this center line. So the line I'm cutting right now is going to be the line that will be against the walls of the box. I'm not really in a place where I can test those, so I'm going to cut right on the line because that's been working on these patterns so far. This next cut is the external cut here. It's not as critical because this outside piece is going to be cut off. I just need to have a lip there to work with when I get on the lid. So yeah, as far as matching up anything, that doesn't matter. In fact, the next cut will be the same once I get it glued on. If I want to make it a little larger ring, because that's pretty thin, I can cut a little outside that line. But right now I'm just going to kind of follow that line around, and then we'll glue it. In fact, I may wait, I may cut the box out and then see how this fits the box. If I need to do any sanding on this, it'll be easier to do before I glue it on. Alright, now I'm going to cut this box sides and floor combination. This is a somewhat critical cut because the first cut I made on the ring, the lip for under the lid, will fit against the cut I'm going to make now. I'll cut this out, then I'll see how well that fits before I glue it to the other piece. If I need to sand it, it'll be easier to do it then. So I got this lip glued onto the lid. I haven't removed any of the patterns yet. I re-glued this pattern because it was trying to come loose. So I just got to cut this line right here. I've already tested this on the body of the box. It's being tight, it's not going to be a problem. In fact, it's looser than I'd like it to be, but it's not enough to make me redo anything. So this will be the last cut, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do to finish it, clean it up. There's the finished project. I'll catch you up on what I've done. I sanded it. Of course, first I raised the grain with a little water, not only on the lid but on the whole box, not everywhere. And then I sanded it back down with a 320 grit. And sanded the corners with a 60 grit. I went around all these corners and relieved them. I didn't get real carried away. The author of the project suggested using a rotary tool with a rounding bit, or to use sandpaper. Well, I've got all my rotary tools with my little handheld router. Has got a bit in it set for a job. I don't want to change it, so I just use sandpaper. Then I put tung oil on it. That's just one coat of tung oil. It's been on a while. It's not completely cured, but it's good enough to film the finish of this. I'm going to let it cure for a few days. I may put some more on it. Won't change the looks much. I even got it on the box itself. You see that mahogany really shines up there. I like the way it looks when you put a finish on it. But anyway, that's the finished product. I hope you like it. If you do, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I went back to a box this week, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I'm going to design one. I've got an idea for one I'm going to design myself, but I'm going to use her techniques with this lip on the lid. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.